Welcome to Crunch Time, a program dedicated to helping you survive the crunch times in your life, whether they are caused by accidents, natural disasters, poverty, economic recession, depression, or all-out economic collapse, or whether they are caused by your realization that today's food supply is being contaminated by artificial fertilizers, pesticides, and genetically modified organisms, and over-processing of crops into what can hardly be called food. We want to help you through the crunch times in your future by teaching you what we have learned about organic gardening, food storage, and food preparation. We'll bring you into our kitchen and into our garden and share with you what we have learned, hopefully before your crunch times arrive. Now here is Chef Francois. Good morning. Welcome back to Crunch Time, where Jesus is King and all our desires are to serve Him. Today we're going to use some leftovers. The other day we made some brownies / cake out of soy pulp, and we're going to use some more of that today that we have here. And we're also going to use some more of this squash we have left. And I also cleaned out the refrigerator this morning, and we have one pear left out of a whole bag of pears that we bought and never used. Those pears kind of got soft. So I was thinking about adding some diced pears into some coleslaw that we made out of squash and rutabaga. I finished up that coleslaw, and I don't feel like making any more right now. So I'm going to use the pear and the squash, and we're just going to make diced caramelized fruit. Start off by getting this pear open, cutting off any soft spots like this one, taking out the core, and like I said before, I do not peel my fruit. I do not want to lose the vitamins that are in there, and I think the vitamins are very important, and there's more vitamins in most fruit skins than there is in the fruit flesh. So I'm going to dice this pear. I think I'm going to put it in a little bowl. I think I'm going to cook the squash first, and then cook the pears in the same mix, because the pears look like they're fairly soft. And the squash will be fairly firm when we start. It'll be soft within a little bit of cooking, but we're going to caramelize them, and I may even use a little flavoring that I've been wanting to use for a long time, which would be fruit punch or a raspberry Weiler's fruit punch drink. I have got cool raspberry right here, and I want to use some of that for flavoring, so I may use that with my caramelized fruits. And we'll cut off about this much. I only have one pear, so I only want to match what I've got here. And I want to have a bowl to keep my seeds in, because I don't want to waste the seeds. make the dice fairly small because I don't want to cook them a long time. In case you didn't catch our show on some of the stir fries that we have done, when you're cooking in survival mode and you don't have a lot of fuel for heat, and you want to cook with as little fuel as you can, then the smaller the pieces, the less fuel it takes. The more surface area you have per unit volume of food, the less fuel it's going to take to cook it. So the smaller the chunks, the better. We're making them today about a quarter of an inch in each direction. And it looks like I'm going to have plenty of squash here. But the apple is going to be a limiting factor. So if I had some other fruit to go with it, any kind of berries or even an orange, I could use that. So we're going to fry this with some butter, add sugar until it caramelizes, and then just serve it hot. You may let it cool if it's too hot. This is only going to be one enough for the whole family. You're going to want to cook more than this, but we're going to start off with that. And I'm going to, I might even use oil instead of butter because oil is more of a survival mode type food. And I'll use olive oil because I happen to have some here instead of the regular soybean oil. Get my sugar out, which I don't have here, so I'm going to have to go down in my survival stash and get some. Shut that up. A 5-pound bag of sugar. Turn the oven back on. Put the 5-pound bag right in there. Open it up. And it'll be ready for us when we're ready for it. So. Tablespoon here in this offering. I'll just keep adding sugar until we have the right amount. I'm going to go ahead and add those as well. Pear dice. Maybe a couple more tablespoons of sugar. And we'll just keep adding sugar until we get some caramel building up. Yeah, starting to get there now. Another tablespoon. Doesn't need to cook very long. Probably turn it up a little. Definitely have caramel in there. So I need to get off a lot of the water. So I'm glad I didn't put the cover on, because it needs to evaporate as much water as we can so we can have nicely. Now let's get something to serve it in. I think I will serve it in this bowl. Alright, while that's going, let's figure out what we're going to do with the soy pulp. We have a recipe from yesterday that we're going to modify only by taking out, this is not the recipe. We have recipe for chocolate oatmeal cookies. Chocolate oatmeal cookies called for stick of butter and a half a cup of milk, which I did put in. And then when I used the soy pulp instead of the oatmeal, it was wet with soy milk, even though we had squeezed out as much as we could. It was, I think this is ready. I think I can turn the heat off at least. In fact, I think I'm going to take the camera and bring it over. Starting to get soft on the squash. Apples are already plenty soft. And as you can see, we have syrup coming out from where I push it. And I would say that is ready right now. Since we've got the oven off, I'll just let it coast. Okay, we have to have a bowl. We had a bowl. Oh yeah, I put another top in here. Not going to have a big recipe because it's still not perfected yet, so we're going to have our portions small. No flour. We have sugar, we have eggs. I remember we had 2 eggs. I know I only have 1 white egg left. And my daughter bought some brown eggs, which are probably more expensive, but I'm going to have one anyway. And when you look at the 2 eggs together, you can't really tell the difference. You can't tell which is the white egg and which is the brown egg, though I will come over and show you. The brown egg is to the left. The white is a little less runny than the egg on the right, which is the white egg. we're done cooking this. We had 2 eggs, and yesterday we had 1/2 cup of sugar, I believe. So I could go with 1 cup of sugar. I'm going to go with 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And cocoa. Yesterday, I believe we had 1/4 cup of cocoa. Cocoa is always difficult to mix in without making a mess. So if you make a mess like I do, don't feel bad. Oh, I have a whisk right here. Now, the hardest part is the butter. Take 1 stick of butter, which we had yesterday. Yesterday was fairly soft. And today, we just have a stick of butter fresh out of the refrigerator. And since we're not in survival mode here, we're going to microwave it. Alright, so I'm going to try to mix the eggs, and sugar, and cocoa. And butter, we'll mix that in. Doubt that's melted enough. No way. 22 seconds is not enough. Alright, I'm at least getting the cocoa so it's no longer powder. I'll go ahead and put this in the serving dish. Have that shortly. But we may need this frying pan. That oil won't hurt anything, and neither will the sugar, so I'm going to leave that right in there. Alright, butter. Close enough. Okay, we have sugar, butter, eggs, and cocoa. And the only other ingredient not in here for chocolate oatmeal cookies is oatmeal, which takes out a lot of this moisture. And even though we haven't added any milk, you can see this is not thick like we need it for chocolate oatmeal cookies. So, put the pulp in there. It is not going to get real thick. I'm going to use all this pulp. That's about the same amount that I used yesterday. Pulp is from 2.5 batches of soy milk. Got about a half a batch left over from yesterday and today. You know, this might be good enough to put into a brownie dish and try to cook in there. I might try that. What we did yesterday, except we rolled them up into balls like we would chocolate oatmeal cookies. Okay, so we have soy pulp and the chocolate oatmeal cookie mix. It does come off. It'll go into a brownie pan just fine. And we'll just try cooking it. And if it doesn't get completely dry, we'll cut it, pull it out, lay it out on a cookie tin, and cook it some more. Alright, what did I do with that brownie dish yesterday? I've got more than one by the looks. Here's one right here. I just need a little butter to wipe down the bottom. Keep it from sticking. And up on the sides. Now I think I'll just turn my oven on now. Usually I wait until it's ready to turn on. So we'll put this mix right in to a brownie dish, press it out. I did not use any vanilla. Vanilla is one of the things that is called for in a brownie recipe that I will not use because it's liquid, and this is already too wet. So we've only used Survival Stash ingredients, except for the pear. The pear was something that we had seasonally. Got from the apple orchard. I want to get this fairly flat so it'll cook evenly. There we go. We'll cook that for at least 30 minutes. 10, 20, 30. Okay, we will try our caramelized pears and squash. Bring it over to you here and see what it looks like. Still a little bit hot. Caramel is a little runny. Caramel could be a little bit more vaporized, but certainly the squash and the pears taste good together. Makes a good dessert or a good main meal. So until our brownies are cooked, we'll take a break. Well, we've taken the brownies out of the oven. They were fairly fluffed up and still fairly moist on the inside, and so I took them out of the pan. It kind of fell apart like a piece of cake, but I like my brownies dense, so I cut them into slivers here, and then I used this spatula and pushed them down to get all the air out, get the moisture to the outside so that it'll dry and it'll be a fairly dense, crunchy brownie the way I like them. And they'll be just fine. I've tasted you know, some of the crumbs around the side here, and they taste good. And once again, here's our caramelized fruits, which has been very good this morning as well. Last day of November at about 10:30 in the morning. No sunshine today, a little cloudy, but we have plenty of light now because of the refraction and reflection. And we have further growth. even after 2 snows. Got some nice tall radishes sticking up. Our parsnips are kind of dying back for the winter. Rutabagas inside the glass are thriving. Have a greenhead daikon, a couple of them I still haven't harvested yet. But the rutabagas, whether they'll have enough time before solid frost, solid freeze to develop, I don't know, but we'll find out. Well, here we are at the main garden on the last day of November. I just checked out all the strawberries. Every one of them has new growth on it. So since I transplanted, they have grown some. So the old growth looks like it's red and brown and dying out. Spinach, I just had some, it was really good. Kale is getting fairly thick. It's been through a couple frosts now, so it's a little sweeter. Real good stuff. Rutabagas are still surviving just fine, still growing. And I'll be harvesting them into January, I'm sure. Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and broccoli, huge plants, and they're growing good. Behind the glass we've got some greenhead daikons. Got a couple white daikons right here. Over here we got some more kale and spinach that's not doing as good as that because it doesn't get as much sun. The rutabagas in the front here. Looks like Shao has harvested my last Napa. It was down in that corner. I was going to wait until tomorrow and harvest it in December. That's okay. He's got some more other Chinese greens over here that he can harvest in December. Plus we've got, I think, another Napa right there that we can harvest in December. And our compost piles are doing just fine as well. And there's our garden. Oh, the garlic across the back over by the black bags over there. They're tall, way up around 6-8 inches tall. Hopefully they'll survive pretty good. And Shao's garden over there has got a nice plot of garlic as well. So there's our garden. In the last minute of our show, I'd like to tell you about the real reason for this show. Jesus Christ, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Without Jesus as my Savior, I would not be confident entering into these trying times that lay ahead. If Jesus is not your Lord and Savior, I suggest you send me an email at crunchtime@roadrunner.com. and ask me how you can join the God who loves you, His Son Jesus Christ, and His disciples in everlasting life. For now, I say to you, God bless and keep you and yours. I'll see you next week on Crunch Time with Chef Francois.